In March 2015, facilitators attending our annual meeting in Montreal were asked to provide practical tips that might help others successfully deliver the program in their own communities. Carla, Carolyn, Catherine, and Dawn graciously share some suggestions that come from their past experience with the program.
Okay, well, my name is Carla Copenas. I'm a facilitator for the Facilitator program. And I've been with the program since 2010. I facilitated in my home community, Grassy Narrows First Nation. And for tips and tricks for other facilitators, I would just say be yourself, take it easy. You're working with families and it's not hard at all. It was just simple. It was like you had everything in front of you. The book was there. All you had to do was follow the instructions and go through the program.
Hello, my name is Don Bennett, and I'm from Enderby, British Columbia. And I've been working on the project for 4 years, and working with the Secwepemc Nation and the Splatsin community in Enderby, British Columbia, which is an hour north of Kelowna. My full-time regular job is I'm a counselor at the local high school. And I've lived in the community for about 18 years, lived in the area my whole life. And we've completed the program for 3 sessions over the past 3 years. And I've been, my task was the lead facilitator. The kind of tips that we learned along the way, first and foremost, is the power of the program is in the power and the strength of the relationships that are formed. And if I was going to give some advice to the facilitator coming out, would be to establish those relationships as quickly as possible, because I feel there's a strong connection between that and the retention of attendees. Trying to get them hooked in and connected to the people who are presenting the program makes a big difference.
Hello, my name is Catherine Giroux. I'm from Whitefish Bay First Nation in northwestern Ontario. I relocated to my community in November 2012, and I was born and raised here in Montreal, Quebec. When I returned to my community, I wanted to become more culturally aware, and I was invited to join the Bees and Da team by Howard Cabistra. And I've been on board since November 2012. I really do like the breakout session with the youth and the parents or the caregivers, because it gives the youth an opportunity to speak freely. Yeah, and if like the facilitator working with the youth and parents, like I don't know, with the facilitator I was working with worked very well with the parents, and I think he did so much better than I could have done. So yeah, it's important to feel comfortable with your group when you're facilitating.
One of the things that we did was we had the night's activities written out on chart paper that was posted up in the room, so the parents and families would come in and know what was coming and what they had to prepare for. A lot of parents hadn't spent as much time doing their weekly homework during the week, so they might look at the schedule and say, oh, we're reviewing that again, and then they would get their binders out and work on their homework in the 10 minutes while others were coming in. So, you know, that kind of ensured that was getting done as well.
With children, you got to remember that when you're talking to children, it's easier to get down to their level. Because if you're taller and you're talking to them, and if you have to use an authoritative voice, then you're kind of come off as intimidating. So if you're communicating with children, it's good to get down to their eye level.
Having fun, obviously, is another one. Creating the space for that, everyone to share their feelings and opinions in an open and respectful way. Setting those ground rules really early is important. These kind of programs can become, you know, they are obviously therapeutic, but we have to be careful that the parent sessions don't become counseling sessions, therapy sessions. You know, there's lots of sensitive things to talk about in the program, and giving everyone else their space and time in the program is important. Another thing that was effective for us, participants really enjoyed the door prizes, and we had approximately $30 a week to budget for that, and we would go get various things depending on the season, from coloring books to picture frames to socks and gloves and mitts.
I'm Carolyn. I'm from Grassy Nose First Nation. That's in northwestern Ontario, about 80 kilometers north of Kenora. One thing I like about the program is the family values. Yeah, I think it's very important to be in touch with your values as a family. A couple of my favorite values from the family values is trust and communication and getting to know each other as a family, being together.
One of the things that we get a lot of positive feedback from parents is the fact that there's a meal included with the program and they don't have to cook that night. We've had good success with various sort of catering options for the program. In year 2, one of the families took that role on, and she enjoyed cooking and preparing the meals, and because it was in the budget to do that, she was, getting money for that as well as being a contributor to the event, and certainly that made her tie-in a lot greater. So if that could be set up where you could share that if families were interested. Now, of course, some families are more than happy not to be worried about preparing food and just show up for the meal, and that's great. The food was an important element, so make sure that the time and commitment and energy is spent to make sure that that's a good thing. I've heard of other programs, parent programs, where that's a shared experience where each family would rotate taking that on each week. And the supplies and materials were purchased for them, and they had to prepare them, and I think it was mostly soups and buns kind of thing. But anyway, some ideas there. One of the challenges that has to be considered is timing for the youth and parent activities. In my experience, the parents were very happy to talk about the challenges that they were faced with on a regular basis, and they would take time talking about challenging issues that they would ask questions of each other and myself of, and clearly they would like more time, so they could have talked for 30 to 40 minutes easily. Meanwhile, in the other room, the other facilitator has the youth, and they're a little rowdy and rambunctious and raring to go depending on your age group, and sometimes they would be clamoring at the door to rejoin the group, and the parents would be into a rather heavy discussion. So what I would say is have some kind of activity, sort of a plan B that's always available for the youth if they do the work that they're tasked with according to what's in the manual, but having something else on the go that they could turn to so that the time that the parents wanted would be allowed to occur, because they needed that discussion time. So balancing the needs of the two groups is a challenge that needs to be carefully considered. And having the physical space is important. We were fortunate enough to have 2 separate rooms with doors in between so that we could handle the noise factor, and so if you're considering running the program in a single room, depending on the size of your group, that could be challenging.
There were times where it was hard, or not hard, but where we would run into complications where we couldn't finish the whole thing in one night, but where we would just take one activity from the night before and do that activity rather than trying to fit all the activities into one evening. So that will come across. You will come across that problem where not everything is done in one night, because it's a 14-week program, or you have 14 sessions in 14 weeks. You're able to just go along and try to do as much as possible.
Homework completion was a bit of a concern for us for the last couple of years, where we would ask them to be doing things throughout the week, and they would come back and it was clear that they hadn't spent a whole lot of time with that. So it's a challenge that needs to be considered about how to handle that as far as getting completion done regularly. They're certainly going to get more out of the program the more they're putting into it, obviously. We don't want to turn it into you didn't do your homework and you got detention, that kind of thing, but we want to try to encourage it as best we could so that they were doing things outside of our contact time.
Be yourself. Just attend, while you're facilitating the group. I mean, try to engage in the program along with them.
Pretty much all I can say is just be yourself. You're just working with families. Just one human being to another human being.